And we're live, Earful of Dirts, Lineouts, episode 19, and I've got Rob Hoadley, head coach of San Diego Legion, and let's just talk a little bit about his resume. Former Wasps defense coach, Welsh under-20s defense coach, Ricoh Rams defense coach, Stanford University defense coach, San Diego Breakers assistant, former London Irish and London Wasps center. Is that about? Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's all in there. Yeah, done a good job.
So, how you doing today, Rob?
Great, mate. Yeah, we just finished a good day of practice. We're getting ready for Houston at the weekend. So we're just coming to the tail end of the week. We'll have captain's run tomorrow, and then away we go Saturday.
Awesome. So you're from London, right?
Correct.
What little spot exactly?
Born in Hammersmith in West London, and then I stayed around there all my life. I was lucky enough to play for London Irish as I was growing up, and then made my debut for them professionally when I was 19, and then moved to Wasps when I was 24. So always around the same sort of areas of London, and very proud to represent those two clubs.
Awesome. So you said you played for London Irish growing up, but where did you really begin playing rugby?
Yeah, I started there when I was 5 years old, actually. So yeah, I had to lie about my age to get a game because you're meant to be 6. So I had to tell them I was 6, and then I had a bit too much energy, so my parents took me down there to get rid of some of the energy and probably get beaten up by bigger boys. And then just loved it. And then that was our second home, really. My family was round there. My family's all my mum's side's all Irish. And so there was a group of us that just really grew up there from under 7s all the way through to under 18s. And actually, I think 4 guys that started in the under 7s team ended up playing professionally for London Irish.
Oh, wow.
Pretty incredible.
Nice. Did you play any other sports?
Yeah, played everything, mate, just like any other kid running around. Obviously, in England, we love soccer. So it's kind of like soccer on a Saturday and rugby on a Sunday. I can only dream of that these days.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Especially, in this country, we get to specialization so early.
Yeah.
So, that would be.
I think, well, it's kind of with everything, money comes into it and you specialize younger. But I think kids actually benefit so much from getting a broad array of skills and challenges. And it's incredible. I think the basketball players are the best athletes for crossing over because they're playing offense, defense, great hand-eye, great speed, agility, power. And you see the guys that have played, 3 years college basketball and then play tight end in the NFL. Yeah. And I think that's great. I would encourage all kids to. Well,
I talked to what you're talking about basketball players. I talk to anyone who's looking to recruit the next best lock for the Eagles or now for this league. You want to you have San Diego State right there. So
that's right.
You go look at the small forwards, the power forwards who are 6'7", 6'8". Well, they're playing another fluid motion sport, and they're elite athletes on scholarship. That's give him a couple years, bring him in. If he picks up the playbook and how to do it.
I completely agree with you. I think the key thing, like you said, it's such a fluid sport and they're playing transitions. I think, obviously a lot of people concentrate on the football guys. They're great athletes. But from what I've seen, the basketball guys is like a really unmined talent pool there. So it could be something you see over the coming years. I think that, rugby is becoming more and more attractive proposition now as people see a realistic pathway to a career. And now that's our job, with the MLR to get the word out there and create a product that people want to be involved in.
So you signed a professional contract in 99. That was just, I guess entering the 5th year of professionalism. What was that period growing up like in the London Irish Academy and then signing at the beginning?
Well, it was the Wild West, mate, really. There was nothing set up. No one really knew what they were doing. There was no direction. And, the first thing that when our squad came in here, we just wanted to give them a bit of inside information and foundation on the beginnings of professionalism. And, it was only, 25 years ago. It's not long been a professional sport. And back in those days, the facilities, the crowds, You know, when you look back, it's surprising how amateurish it was, because all we know now is what we see in Europe and Super Rugby. So now we regularly see in the Premiership, we see 70,000, 80,000 people in beautiful stadiums for regular season games. If you'd have said that 10 years ago, people might have said you're crazy. So it's really important to see where we've come from, how quickly the game has changed, and how quickly the potential it is for it to change here in America, because we're actually building into a sports landscape with so much longer history of professional sport. So the facilities, I think the knowledge in terms of the S&C staff, the athletic trainers, everything like that, we've got the opportunity to build very, very quickly here. So we just wanted to give our players a taste of where rugby had come from and what it had grown to around the world.
So, you know, back then when you were with London Irish, you guys won an Anglo Welsh Cup there, and you know you end up winning, I think, 2 with Wasps, right? But how would you? I know how the Anglo Welsh Cup is talked about now, but how would you describe that back then?
Yeah, well, we won with the Power Gem with London Irish, was like the English Cup. So you have the English League and the English Cup. So that was a separate thing. Back then, the 2 big things were the English Cup, the English League and the English Cup. And then Europe obviously was growing. So that cup was pretty awesome from a London Irish team that really had never challenged for those kind of honours before. We had an amazing management team. And Gary Gold was part of that, in fact, that is now the USA coach. And they really took it by force of personality, those coaches, and they created a squad out of nothing. So that was an amazing experience. And then with Wasps, yeah, we won the Anglo Welsh Cup, I think 1 or 2 of my first 5 years there. And yeah, I mean, it was a great experience to win that. You know, I think it's the significance of it has diminished with European, the significance of the European Cup and then the domestic leagues. But you know, listen, it's like anything. Why do we play sport? It's for memories, and that was an amazing memory for all of us involved and the players. And anytime you get a chance to win a competition like that, you know, it's inspirational for the rest of your career and for your fans. So it's something to be cherished.
So while you were at Irish, you started at University of Surrey. So how were you able to, you know, work on your bachelor's, and you know you did it in 4 years between Irish and Wasps. So how were you able to do that while playing professional rugby?
Yeah, so again, like you say, you know, what was professional rugby back then? Well, we didn't really know. So to me, I had the opportunity to go to university, and I felt, you know, we weren't on big money then, and we didn't know where rugby was going to go. So for me, it was really important to have that background, given the opportunity. So I managed. It was a 3-year course, and I took an extra year to finish. I did some part-time lectures, and some of my lecturers were very kind and sort of basically saw me privately to catch me up. You know, I look back and I'm very proud of combining those things. And it's something you see more and more in the game now, where teams are actually enforcing their players to have, Saracens in particular, you have to have a business interest or a course that you're studying on to show that you're holistically growing yourself as a person, because they see how important it is for that side to affect the player. You know, we went through, again, that first few years of professionalism, that young guys, they turn up, they expect a pay packet, they go home, they play on computers, or, you know, they don't do anything particularly constructive with their time. Those first wave of guys that retired, having only known professional rugby, they didn't have enough money to live on after that, and they didn't really have a skill set that was going to equip them for the real world. So I think we've definitely seen a change in thinking there. And I think it's awesome now that young guys are looked after on and off the field to build the whole person. It definitely plays back into being a success on the field.
So you moved to Wasps in 2004. You know, Irish and Wasps historically have been rivals. Was there any bad blood with the move, or just in general, like you could change your colors and it was just time to get after it and go after the other side again?
No, it took a while to settle in, I can tell you. I think when I turned up, there were a few people not too happy to see me. Yeah, I've heard a few stories since actually that we used to go on training camp to Poland. It was these brutal, horrible training camps, and no, I've heard a few stories that guys were not too pleased to see me there. But it all worked out in the end. They're a great group of lads, and yeah, I just had an amazing few years at the club.
So you guys won the Premiership twice during that time.
Yeah.
What was needed to do that?
Well, I mean, it started again. I say, I talk about London Irish with the coaching staff, and it's the same at Wasps. We had Warren Gatland and Sean Edwards, the likes of Leon Holden, and Craig Dowd was coaching for a while there, and also our S&C staff. Our S&C staff were for sure trailblazers in the English Premiership, and I think we were conditioned way ahead of the pack. We were just prepared. Our trait was to peak for the right time in the season. So in those years that we won the Premiership, we never finished first in the league. In fact, we finished quite a way behind the leaders on those occasions. But we were peaking physically for the end of the season. That's something I've certainly learned a lot from. And look, at the end of the day, we had an amazing roster. We had real big time players. And it was incredible. With that whole environment, you just went into the big games and you just had no doubt we were going to win. It was an amazing feeling.
In the midst of, that period, you guys also won a Heineken Cup. So what separated the work around that, and why is winning, Heineken Cup or now European Championship different from the Premiership?
Yeah, the Heineken Cup is an unbelievably special competition. It's incredible. Every year the fixtures come out, you're looking for who's in your pool, where are you going to be traveling to. You're going to real hostile environments, and it's just the place you can test yourself. And the interesting thing is, it is a step up from the Premiership, and it's almost a bridge between the Premiership and international rugby. But the difference between European rugby and international rugby is you're playing with your mates that you've been with all year, and you're playing at such a fast pace, and the systems, that it's a kind of different, where obviously you go into camp with England or whoever your team is, and it's an amazing group of players, but you've got a shorter time to learn the systems and implement the systems. So it's kind of a hybrid. International rugby is still faster. If you speak to people that have played both, international rugby is the pinnacle, but it's just a different element that you're playing at that pace, but with your mates that you've been with all year. And it was just an unbelievable competition. Very privileged to play. To play at Thomond Park in front of a massive crowd there, and to travel around Europe. It was incredible.
So would you prefer the European Championships were played after the Premiership season, and those standings from the Premiership contributed towards qualification? Because for me, I always look at this, game management, minutes management on players, that you kind of have to shorten the overall season, like on the body.
Yeah, I mean, listen, however they do it, I mean, this is a step ahead of your question, but it's radical. But I still think you've got to look at making rugby a summer sport in Europe. I mean, like, there's so many elements to it. You could chunk those tournaments. You could have an international season that corresponds. Also, like, the Premiership in the winter isn't that entertaining. A lot of games, that's the truth of it. In the summer, the Premiership is unbelievable. It's amazing. So every year we try and change the rules and say, how are we going to score more tries? Well, guess what? In the summer, it's a drier ball. The players get tired quicker. The game's amazing. It doesn't need any changes. So listen, there's a lot of different elements around that, but I would certainly look into that as a solution. Now, then also we do need to shorten the season, because what's happening with players is ridiculous, and lengthening the season, it's such a short-term policy, and let's make more money for playing more games, but it's not the way forward. If you look at even something like international cricket, there's so much cricket on. I don't know what's important anymore. There's international cricket all the time. So it's like, it's like they see a cash cow, but then it's like, I don't know what's relevant, so I'm not going to spend my money on any of it. You can turn people off. So I think we've got to be very careful how we do it. In order to protect the product and create the best product, we need to look after the players as a priority.
That's in line with how I think, for sure. So while you were at Wasps, you transitioned to an assistant role. What made you decide to get into coaching?
I wasn't very good at playing, mate, so I didn't have much choice at that stage. I was getting up. I actually had a few problems with my head. So it was like I was getting a lot of migraines and struggles. So to be honest, I couldn't rely on my head to get through games, and kind of like the staff knew it. Sean Edwards in particular is a great mentor of mine, and I think he recognised that I was really struggling, and he was the one that said, he basically got me into coaching. In fact, that I was very, very lucky. They created a job for me. It wasn't like I applied for a job or asked them. Sean just said he wanted me to help him, and so, as I say, they created a job for me, and basically he took me under his wing, and it was just an unbelievable education.
During that time period, you had the opportunity to become the Wales under-20 defence coach. What was that setup like?
Yeah, that was amazing as well. So obviously Warren Gatland was the Wales coach. He'd left Wasps, so he invited me to go and help out with the under-20s. So yeah, I mean, it was full on. So I was still actually playing that first year. I was still playing at Wasps. I was coaching a local club, Ealing Trailfinders. I was coaching at Wasps, and then I was driving and coaching in Wales as well. So it was a full-on year. And I reckon, I did that for 2 years, and I reckon I probably got 4 years of worth of coaching experience in 2 years. And I worked with Phil Davis there in Wales. And again, it was another amazing experience, because you're going, you're learning about, it's a very different thing, learning about how to prepare for international competitions in terms of going away for long periods. And it's a very different dynamic. And so it was a great grounding then of learning the international game, which is different from the club game. And within that, I could get access to going to training with the Wales full squad, and I went with them to the Wales New Zealand game as part of their group. So there were some great opportunities, and with everything in life, you just take the learning out of it. So it was a great time for me.
So was it because of your times with Welsh under-20s that you moved on to become the Wasps defense coach, or did that become part of an overall plan during that period of time?
Yeah, in that period, then at the end of that period, Sean moved to do Wales full time, because he was doing a bit of Wales and Wasps. So then when he moved to do Wales, then basically I then basically took his job at Wasps as just a natural natural progression.
Awesome. So you left Wasps in 2012 to coach the defense of the Ricoh Black Rams in the top league. Can you describe that, setup, and what was the overall experience?
Unbelievable. Like, it was very, very interesting, because you can get very, very blinkered about your rugby experience and think the Premiership is the be all and the end all. And basically, if you're fighting as your ambition for a kid all through your life to play in the Premiership, it is the whole world to you. And I've spoken to a few people, really experienced rugby people, and to get their views on, my next move. And a few people just said broadening your horizons is just the best thing you can do. We were speaking earlier about playing different sports, but I remember Alex King had moved from Wasps to coach at Clermont in France, and Clermont really at the time then became one of the best teams in Europe. And he said he kind of thought he had the answers at Wasps because we've been so successful. But anytime you really think you've got the answers sewn up in rugby, I think you'll get a kick in the backside. And he said that going away and learning a whole another approach that was successful just made him 10 times better coach. So I just saw a different opportunity and another way to learn. And Japan was certainly that. It was a complete contrast culturally. And what it forced you to do was rethink everything you did, because you couldn't take for granted the knowledge or the playing base that any player had. You basically had to go through everything you knew and break it all down so you could explain exactly the reasoning why you believed in it. And that was actually a great learning process, because there's a few things in rugby you think you can take for granted, but there you had to question everything you did and then build it back up to explain another level. So it was an unbelievable experience, actually.
So what did you enjoy most about Japan in general?
Well, I'd have to say, you're saying in general, I always come back to rugby, but in terms of rugby, Stephen Larkham was there as so the great Aussie fly half, who also is an unbelievable coach at the Brumbies and now Australia. He was there, and I've worked with some amazing coaches, but he was unreal. Like his approach, he was so calm, the way he thought through things, and his connection with the players. So that was my favourite thing from the time there. I guess you might be asking for some funny stories away from rugby, but I mean, it was pretty much rugby all the time.
This goes into, are you into sushi or whale or?
No whale, no. I'm not getting committed to that in public. I mean, obviously, it was taking in the local culture, and it was awesome to be there with local guys, obviously, that could show you another side of it rather than just being a tourist. Like I said, we climbed Mount Fuji, which was just an unbelievable experience. We could see Mount Fuji from our training field on a nice blue sky day. So that was awesome. And yeah, it was just, we travel around on the Shinkansen, the bullet train that goes about 200 miles an hour. That was amazing. And then you go to some of the old towns and see the old style of living. And then Tokyo itself was just absolutely crazy. So yeah, it's an unreal country. It's the contrast there between the old style of living and the new it's amazing, and it's unlike anywhere I've ever been.
Did you ever sumo wrestle?
We went to the sumo wrestling, and the best, most famous sumo wrestler there was like this little small Hungarian dude who was like half the size of all the others. It was very and then you see him walking down the road and everyone's trying to get his autograph and photos with him. And he's just walking like with these guys that are like 3 times the size of him. It was very bizarre. He had some technique. Intense. Yeah.
So what do you think about like Japanese rugby in general? How would you describe not the top league, I would say, but just would say that the culture, how it's set up, structured beyond the professional side?
Well, a lot of it, the basis of a lot of rugby in Japan is the university system. And, they get big crowds out for the university system. Now, it's a little bit, the way it's run is not necessarily performance based. A lot of it, that they bring a lot of foreign coaches into the top league and obviously try and trickle that down, but it's stuck in the past in many ways, just in their approach to training. But what they have got is a great base of those universities. They've got a huge playing base. I think if you look at the most players in the world, it's like England, France, South Africa, America, and Japan are up there. I think. So that's quite interesting. And again, they have a pathway. They have a pathway to a professional career, but the top league, a lot of the players actually work for the company. So our company was Ricoh, that make cameras and photocopiers and all the rest of it. And so a lot of the players work for Ricoh, and then they come and play rugby for Ricoh. So it's not like they're just professional rugby players. So it's a strange blend, because you have that, and then you have some of the best foreigners in the world, like Sonny Bill Williams was playing for Panasonic when I was there, and Marnonu played for Ricoh. So it's just a really, really interesting blend. But I think the key for them was that they gave Eddie Jones such control between the World Cups, obviously culminating in the victory over South Africa. And Eddie's success there came from creating a style of play that suited the Japanese style. They played ultra fast, is what he did with Suntory, his team there. Ultra fast rucks, moving the opposition, and just great continuity. So Eddie got his key was he had a lot of contact time with that Japan team. He took them up to the mountains to altitude, and he just drilled them for 4 years at what he wanted them to get good at. And they had such an identity of what they were good at that after 4 years, he took players that maybe shouldn't have competed with South Africa individually, but they had the game plan, the fitness, and the application to get the result. And I think, unfortunately, in USA Rugby, it's a trick that we've missed because we keep changing between World Cups and we don't have that continuity. And we can't we can't hang a hat on a peg and say, this is our style, this is what we're going to get better at over 4 years.
I think, not to get too far down that, I think we do need to develop whatever our style is and sort of stick to that overall. And, what are we? As Americans, we're big, we're fast, and we're big, right? So that's to me. I want to see like just mutants up front and mutants in the back line. Like that's what I think of.
Yeah, but I say more than that.
Super fast.
Yeah, I say more than that. We're very, very good in the air. Look at the USA Sevens team; they're the best in the air, which is a huge part of the modern game. Not just big, but really explosive. So it's not just carrying straight, but it's attracting two defenders, then getting offload skills as well to move the defense apart, the defense around. So listen, there's many ways to skin a cat in rugby, but I think for us to really have success at the top level, we have to. Gary's in there now. Gary's a great guy. Let's give him time to say, this is how I want to play, and develop young men that in 4 years, they're going to be world beaters at that style. Because every time I go back to USA camp, I'm seeing guys that are real international class players now, but they just need to be in the same system to be challenging. Because there's guys there now that have been in the camp and they've been good professionals for a number of years, especially these young forwards that you see coming through. So I just think they need to be directed for a decent amount of period of time, and I think we could really make impacts.
Awesome. Do you see any similarities between the Japanese rugby setup and what you see in the States the last 4 years?
Not really. There are obviously, but just because it's through the companies in Japan, it's so unique. So that you work for the company, you play for the company. Whereas here, I think, so you're in some ways restricted by what you can do, right? Now here, I think we have a blank canvas, and we can create what we want. So we can take the best from around the world of rugby. We can also combine it with the best, as I say, of the USA sports environment. Now that creates a very, very interesting landscape. So for instance, here at San Diego, we're lucky enough to train at the Exos training facility, which is, got to be one of the best rugby training facilities in the world. Our S&C staff, Roy Holmes and Hank Dombrowski, are unbelievable. So what they can create with the players maybe isn't available in other parts of the world. And, in Japan, it's a different thing. So I think Japan's unique, and I think the American rugby landscape is unique as well. And as I say, I think it's very, very exciting where we can go. If you look at the Utah game the other day, Utah v Glendale in Rio Tinto Stadium, that was an unbelievable event put on by Utah. There's 9,000 people there in a beautiful stadium. There's not many places around the world of rugby that you see 9,000 people for a preseason game in a beautiful stadium like that.
So when did you make the decision to immigrate to the States?
Well, I've been here 4 years now, and in fact, whilst I was at Ricoh, I was I had it in mind because I've always, I love America. I love the American attitude. I love the American sports attitude of we will find a way. So even if you look at the soccer team, and I know they get criticised sometimes, they've had their ups and downs, but they've done better at Soccer World Cups in the last 16 years than England have. Even with all the history in England, American sports find a way to win. So I love that attitude. And I just thought that to come over here and be part of creating something that you can put your own name to is just an unbelievable challenge. And like I say, a unique opportunity in the world of rugby where, you know, if you stay in England or Europe, you can move from club to club. You're kind of doing the same things over and over again. Whereas here, I see, you know, the opportunity to be a pioneer, and part of our group here is to do that. Is one that I just thought was the most exciting opportunity available.
So, how did you get to Stanford, and what was coaching at Stanford like?
Well, I knew the head coach, Matt Sherman, who's a great guy and a great American coach. He'd been over to England with the All-Americans, and I'd done some guest coaching with him, and then we all stayed in contact. So I'd go and do, you know, even in my off-season from Japan, I'd go over to Stanford and help him out. And then again, we created the opportunity there to go and join him. I'm very grateful to the board there at Stanford. They're very supportive. And that was a great way to get onto the American rugby scene and learn a bit about what was going on at a local level. And Stanford, obviously, I don't know if you've been there, but it's an unbelievable campus. It's a beautiful place. So I was lucky enough to work with the Stanford team for 2.5 years.
So how did coaching with the Breakers come about? What do you think of that experience?
Yeah, I mean, we were just having a chat earlier. I mean, we learned so much. So myself and Matt Hawkins were obviously involved here at the Breakers and here now with the Legion. And also, as I said, Roy and Hank, our conditioning coaches, they were involved as well. And it just puts us in such a great position to learn the lessons from that and move forward. And listen, if it wasn't for that, we might not have this incarnation of professional rugby in America. So I think we've got a lot to be grateful for.
So how long did it take you to accept Matt's offer to coach the Legion?
Well, in fact, we've been in touch, you know, throughout. So it wasn't really like there was ever a break between Breakers and Legion. Matt has done so much work here in San Diego, and he's done so much for the rugby community at a grassroots level through to professional level that he was ready. If ever there's going to be a professional league, he has been working on the setup here to step into whatever league that is. We've got the product here ready. So me and Matt have always known that. We've always been ready for our opportunity and working on how we're going to put together the Legion franchise. So even in the time when we weren't playing, we were always working on improving our systems for this new incarnation of the MLR.
So let's get into coaching a little bit. So you're a defense coach, but I'm going to ask you a little bit about offense first. So what kind of attack shapes do you like to run? And what's your base?
Well, again, without getting into too much detail, Aaron, because I know you've told me you're going to dig for it. Listen, everything starts, so whatever system you play, we'll talk generically, obviously, it starts from set piece. You include, obviously, your restarts in your set piece. Okay, so then you can, with that platform, you can get your field position. And then if you're getting great field position, then you can force another team into errors, and they're going to give you the best counter-attack ball. So whatever your system is based on, you've got to look at where are the most tries scored from, how you're going to generate that kind of ball, and then where you're going to find your dominance over the other team. So it could be physical dominance, as you say, the American, you want to see big, strong American runners, or it could be finding space and through speed. So there's going to be dominance for you somewhere. So it's finding that dominance, asserting it, and then finishing your opportunities. So for us, we build our game plan around how do you find the most success on the field. And this, obviously there's a lot of research into what's the best opportunities to score your tries. So we'll do that. Then we recruit according to the style we want to play. And you'll see, we'll have a pretty forceful tight five that can create us opportunities. And we've got a lot of great decision makers with great vision in our back line that can give us great field position and then find the space when we create it.
So now you're going to make me watch film to go, hey, they're using the 1-3-2-2 or the 1-3-3-1 or the 2-4-2 or a hybrid, or Or pure hybrid system like the All Blacks, which is the 1-6-1. Is that what you're going to make me do?
2-4-3. Just chuck an extra player on. Gives you an advantage, but there you go. You got to find it where you can. There you go, mate. Was I generic enough for you? Without giving too much away.
That definitely says a lot about philosophy. So analyze where you're going to find the space, create the space, and attack. So
for sure, mate. And we, obviously we've got a lot of very exciting players here, but it's how we manipulate the defense and get them into space, and then how we execute to finish within that space.
So for defense, what kind of system and shape do you like? I'm seeing, because I probably watched the second most film of the rugby media in the MLR. I'm seeing a lot of blitz defenses.
Yeah, sure. Well, listen, it's no secret. I mean, if you look through who my coaching mentors have been, it's Brendan Venter at London Irish, who's gone on to, he's played a big part with South Africa, Italy recently. And then obviously Sean Edwards, who's, they're two of the best defensive coaches in the world. They're both aggressive guys. They both have an aggressive style of defense. Obviously I favour line speed to get in the face, but listen, every team does. So every team does in the right situations. You've got to be flexible. You've got to get your setups right in the first place. Like I said, it starts from your, same as attack, starts from your set piece setups. And then how you're getting into your phase play, where you're getting your strongest position, defenders in their strongest positions. And then if you get the opportunity at the right time, then you can bring the line speed and try and trap the opposition behind the gain line. Obviously try and challenge their rucks and create that turnover ball that you want to play off.
So you guys have had one preseason game, achieved victory. What kind of has that provided the data that you guys desired from that match?
Yeah, listen, like I've said before, it really wasn't about the result wasn't the main thing there. Okay, obviously we want to win, but we just wanted to test out, like, are we applying the things that we've been training? And we got good feedback, and basically there's a lot to work on. As always, anyone will tell you after the first game, but it's great to have that starting point and to have those visuals on showing the players, okay, this is why we're working on these things. This is where we think our dominance can be if we get things right. And I think it gave the players a great picture of why we've built our game plan like we have and what they need to do to really maximize it. Lots of details to clean up.
So what adjustments have you guys made to the scrum following the Austin match?
Well, we've Chris Cracknell, our forwards coach, is doing a great job. We've actually brought in a few guys to add to the competition. He's taken extra live sessions this week. Obviously, we know that Houston will be coming with a real strong challenge this weekend. That that they've had a lot of time together, which we haven't had. That's just the reality of it. So we got in some extra training sessions there this week, and we're very excited about what our Type 5 can produce this weekend.
Going into this match against Houston, what are some of the things that you're looking to evaluate?
Well, one of the biggest things there you've mentioned is the set piece. We need to improve there because without that, we're not going to have a platform. I think against Houston, you've got to look at your kick chase with the threats they've got. Obviously, Zach Pangelinin at the back, Josh Vichy. Then you've got the halfbacks are threats on the ball, very experienced. So again, it's things that we've been practicing, but it's nice to then have a real opponent where it's like, okay, this is why we're practicing it, because we've got to be on our mettle against these threats coming against us. But one of the big things will be the set piece, and then another will be the kick chase and the integrity of our line.
Do you see Nate Augsburger shifting a lot between scrum half and the blindside wing, as he's done with the Eagles, or is he your 9?
Yeah, he's a 9 for us. We don't really see him switching. He's our captain, and he's been captain of USA from both 9 and wing, which is pretty impressive. I mean, it speaks volumes of the bloke that he can do those both roles because they're so different. But for us, he needs to keep working on his core skills. He's becoming a very, very good international player, but to become a great international player, he needs time building on his fundamentals, because under pressure, they need to improve. And we're looking at him being one of the better 9s in world rugby. That's what he needs to aspire to be. Then he needs the time at 9. So listen, there's no ruling out in a pinch, something like that. He goes out to wing to cover, but we see him as our 9. He's our man, and he'll be leading the team from there.
Matt said you guys were bringing in some players. I know you told me you're not going to tell me who, but
you can tell me who, Aaron. You can tell me who, because you've been doing your digging.
I think you should bring in Jed Gillespie from On Back, because I think he's, of the tight head props in the PRP, I think he's the top one. To be honest, I've watched a lot of PRP, and his fundamentals in the scrum and set piece are there, and his ball carrying skills. I mean, I think he scored like 4 prop tries. So yeah. I mean, he can score for you if you want him.
There you go, on the radar. We'll put him on the wing then.
I've done that before. I don't want to be on the wing as a front rower. Sorry.
No. Okay. Yeah. We'll. He's on the radar then. Yeah. Come on. I like your recruitment list here. Now I'm getting ideas.
So let's see. You got Brendan Daly up at San Francisco Golden Gate.
Yeah, he's doing very well with the Eagles.
Just got capped as an Eagle lock.
Yeah.
And then you've got a loose head hanging out at number 4 for Life West in Hulu Hollow Mongaloa, instead of playing loose head for his club. And then there's another Life West guy who I want to see in an MLR jersey, Sam McGuffey, Olympian bobsledder, coming back to rugby. The 2 games I've seen him play, the first one, it was his first game in like 4 years since pro failed. And I didn't see him much. And then he started the next game, and his acceleration, his ball handling, it was like it. I mean, he was a very good high school football player, and he's a world-class athlete. Yeah. The way he handles the ball, and the way he attacks a ruck when he doesn't have the ball, he's like a flanker, but he's 5'11", 200 pounds, and blazing fast. So those would be the guys who are hanging around California, I would add.
I'd say you should get on the payroll for someone then, and with your recommendations, all that research. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting time, I think, after the Premiership concludes. Obviously, those guys have their commitments there, so it's unfair to talk about anyone that's involved with a team there. But I'm sure, any player that's doing well in that league, teams will be circling and we'll be looking at bringing them in to strengthen their MLR squads. So
moving away from I guess this next one will be rugby related, or it could be soccer related if you're so into that. Moldeds or studs?
I mean, I've moved out to California for a reason, because I like the sun. So I'll have to say moldeds. You can keep the studs thing. I left them in London. No, don't fancy any more rain.
So, favorite San Diego tacos?
Do you know what? I couldn't tell you. I haven't had any tacos here, I don't think. I don't think I've been to anywhere to specifically buy tacos.
I'll send you one.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
It's good.
What's yours? You're obviously you've got like a little spice in your tone there that you obviously know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've I think I've got San Diego tacos down pat. Man, there's like in one weekend I had tacos 3 different places in San Diego. So I will send you my, I guess, comprehensive list on tacos.
So Aaron's San Diego taco tours.
Yeah. And you will, if you're disappointed, I'll have to come up with something else. But I think I'm pretty set on these 3. The one that's right off the top of my head is called Wahoo Fish Tacos. It's a chain, but
I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, I might have been there.
But the other 2 I'll send you. But so then you spent time in the Bay and you spent time in San Diego, Bay Area or San Diego?
I think San Diego for me. I love it down here. I think it's just a very relaxed place. I mean, everyone's just so friendly, and obviously the scenery is amazing. San Francisco is a bit, slightly different vibe. I love it too. I love being able to dip in and out of a bit of city and a bit of a sort of more relaxed sort of beach vibe. So anywhere in California, I think it's just a fascinating place actually. But the best thing I just think is the people, Aaron. I think everyone's so friendly, and they'll help you out in any way they can. And I think if you can work hard here, and you've got a good personality and get on with people, then you can achieve things. So I think it's an amazing place to live and make your living.
So are you going to become a professional surfer?
I'm a long way from professional. I'm maybe surfer, a long way from professional. I just try and look good walking down the beach with my board, but it doesn't go well when I get in the water.
So I see the board in the background.
Board in the background, yeah.
How are you tracking your different players? Because there's 3 categories behind each name. So what is that?
What's the question? What do you mean? How am I tracking?
So I see 3 columns behind each name on the board. So I'm guessing that's tracking different things for each player. Or it's just like they're here today.
Do you want to get your glasses? Do you want to get your glasses? And I'll see if you can read what's on there.
I see names. I see like 415. Then I see 70. It's like either Bronco. One of those is probably Bronco times.
That's a better view for you.
But yeah. Well, I think that about wraps it up, Rob. So thanks for your time, and I'll definitely have to catch you down in San Diego sometime.
Yeah, pleasure to speak to you, mate. Anytime you're down, we'll go for tacos.
That's what I'm talking about.
There you go.
Good luck this weekend against Houston.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're very excited. It's the first time we get to engage our fan base and our community. We're very proud of representing the community here. We just think the SoCal rugby community is, as I say, one of the best in the country, and they deserve to have this level of competition. And we hope to make them proud and give them something long-term that they can get behind.
That's it for Earful of Dirt, Lineouts, episode 19. You can catch Earful of Dirt, the show, at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time, this next Monday. And hopefully we can get Chris Cracknell or Zach Teston pretty soon to tell their rugby story and to talk about the Legion.
Yeah, lots of good stories. I mean, you can talk to Chris about being in Fiji and all his England Sevens exploits, and Zach, unbelievable legend of American rugby. We're very fortunate to have him here.